We have 4 of the best Google Glass explorers, pioneers, developers in the DC area with us today. Before we start, how many of you are familiar with Google Glass? How many of you have tried at least Google Glass? Okay, so we shouldn't take anything for granted. Just explain yourself very well, okay? So a couple of things before we start. The idea that I have for this session is basically a conversation. We are not going to do any demos or any slides or anything like that. What I want is just to have a conversation with these guys here. I have a whole bunch of questions ready for them. One of the perks of moderating is that I get the first questions for me. I want to do that for a few minutes, and after that I really want to open the floor and I want you guys to ask them questions. First of all, I'm Antonio Zugaldia. I'm the CTO of Silica Labs, and I'm here because we are one of the first companies, at least in DC, doing 100% Google Glass development. That's the attitude. And she's my lead designer, so she's excited. So we only do Google Glass. We are one of those few crazy companies out there that decided to get rid of mobile desktop. These are all things of the past, and we just focus on wearables, on Google Glass and smartwatches. And it's crazy. There are people willing to work with us at this point. So it's been fun. And as part of the job in Silica Labs, it's been meeting everybody doing Google Glass in the DC area. And I believe these 4 guys are one of the, seriously, the most interesting people doing Google Glass in the area. There are quite a few. And that reminds me, I don't want to forget, we have a very active community of Google Glass developers, enthusiasts, explorers in the DC area. We have a meetup. If you just Google Google Glass DC, you'll see more than 500 people are signed up for the meetup. I really encourage you to sign up and come to our next meetups. We have normally one every month or every other month. We also have happy hours. It's a great opportunity for you guys to ask questions, to know what we are up to try Google Glass. So please use our meetup and reach out to us. And another important thing that I want to say, and this is kind of a surprise because I didn't know this morning that we had this chance. But one of the members of the audience, Steve, right there, just told me that he has a few Google Glass invites that he is willing to give away to you guys. So few lucky guys from here will get an invite to get Google Glass. How are we going to do it? You just give me $1,000 and it's yours. That's our business model. You get $100 each. That's okay.
Don't forget you also pay $6
Oh, you also need to pay Google for the glass. Yeah, that's right. So no, what we're gonna do is, as you know, we are pretty active on social media for the event. We love seeing people active on Twitter and Google+, especially Google+. And so everybody tweeting with the hashtag DevFestDC today will have a chance to get an invite for Google Glass. The more you tweet, the more you retweet, the more you share, the more chances you have to get that invite. Let's say that every time you tweet with the hashtag DevFestDC, you buy a ticket for the ride. Okay? So we are going to be monitoring our Twitter and Google Plus feeds, hashtag DevFestDC, and at the end of the day, we will choose 6 people at least, and we will send you invites. You need to comply with the requirements of the GLASS program, which is basically being over 18 years old, US resident, and willing to pay $1,500 to Google for the Google Glass prototype. So you're interested in getting Google Glass today, that's your chance. So now let's start with the panel. What I want is basically to ask them a few basic questions about what they do and the main interests, and after that we'll get back to you. So first thing I want from you guys is just a brief introduction about who you are, what do you do. I guess that because I have a whole bunch of questions and we are quite a few, just keep to try your answers to around a minute or something like that. I know Noble loves talking a lot, so please keep it short. So why don't we start with Shiva, and we just get a brief idea of who you are and what you do.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Yeah. This is Shiva. I'm a CEO and founder for a mobile company called Nasatech. We are not like Antonio, we do mobile, the overall spectrum of mobile, but Google Glass and wearable computers are one of the areas. And we have built a platform called MFirst, and that helps to build applications much faster in a native fashion. We are kind of taking a different approach. It's not cross-platform, it's a native approach. And that's mostly what we do.
I'm John Fontaine. Is this working all right? I'm John Fontaine. I'm the Vice President of Glassware at Social Radar. And what we're trying to do with Social Radar is really provide you with the, I think, long-held vision of the heads-up display that tells you who the people are around you in the room that you want to talk to, and helps you associate faces and names without, while at the same time, respecting the privacy controls that individuals have about whether they want their name shared. And we've been working with Glass now since about May.
And this is so cool. It's the first company I see with a VP of glassware development.
Yeah, I think I'm the first VP of glassware development in the country. Yeah.
I'm David Hodge, partner, founder, technologist at Lucid Techniques. We're a small software consultancy. We use machine learning and cloud computing to automate workflows and business problems. And we see Glass as kind of the natural extension to that. We're doing a lot of prototypes with construction companies, people in healthcare, to kind of help people do their jobs easier and faster using Google Glass.
And I'm Noble Ackerson. I'm CEO of Byte and Atom Research based out of Alexandria, Virginia. And our company focuses on health and lifestyle, specifically fitness right now. But there are a lot of things that we're sort of working on regarding content and delivery of certain fitness applications while leveraging the sensors in Google Glass and other sensors that we understand that people are going to be more and more wearing. So that's pretty much it.
Great. So I have the feeling that mostly everybody here is a technical person, a developer, or somehow with some deep knowledge of Google technologies. But before I start asking you questions about developing for Glass and all these technical experience you guys have with it, I would love to have just quick insight on how is for you Glass as a user, as a normal person that is wearing Glass for a few months now on a daily basis. We're going to start with Noble now.
It's pretty much an extension of myself. It's actually kind of very weird to say. Antonio and I had the privilege of being one of the first in the country outside of the exclusive R&D group at Google to develop for and actually try Glass. And I've since sort of become very used to it. And actually, when I don't have it on, I sort of reach for it. Specifically for what I'm working on, it's actually good to do more than just take pictures and record video and look at timeline cards from my Twitter account. But to be able to sort of, have it be part of who I am and sort of virtually assist me with certain pieces of glassware that I built.
Yeah, I like that. If you can let us know the feature that you use the most as a user, I think that's interesting.
So for me, I didn't realize how personal or intimate Glass was going to be, because I got it in late July, and I think I used it for a few weeks and then had that aha moment when I took my daughter to her Taekwondo class, and she asked me to hold her board for her, and I recorded the whole thing. And if you think about it, you have to hold the board like with 2 hands, but there's no other gadget you can do that with, and that perspective you can't get with, say, an iPad or a cell phone. So it's been very personal. I mean, kids kind of run around really fast, so being able to say, okay, Glass, take a picture, or get those candid moments in the moment before you kind of do one of these things and you try to unlock your phone and then take a picture. So on the personal side, I use it a lot with pictures and videos of my kids. But it also, I feel like I should go out and take more pictures because I can. In the past, you kind of hesitate because you have to get your cell phone out and unlock it, but it's the friction for users is almost zero because it's so easy to do. Whether you press the button here or you just say, okay, Glass, take a picture. So that on the personal side, it's been amazing.
I have to agree that the video and camera capability is really amazing, and the ability to capture things in perspective of where you are. One of my favorite things to do is actually give it to one of my kids when we go someplace, like to a field trip. We went out to Luray Caverns. Has anyone been to a Luray around here? I assume people go out. And so we did the tour of Luray, and my older daughter had glass on the whole time, and she was taking pictures, and then we watched, what she was looking at the whole time. It was a really interesting way to capture her perspective on an event or something. So it's not just as a, for me, as a personal device, but as a device, you hand someone and then they do something with it, and what you can collect with that is very interesting. And then, the other thing that I find very useful is the ability to get sort of instant information brought up to your screen for yourself. When you want to just quickly look up something, like, some factoid of who was in whatever movie, the ability just to kind of Google it, actually, it turns out that it's quite useful. I mean, kind of this information card that comes out in front of your eyes to tell you, where something is or what's going on. I really like that.
So for me, the personal use and like not just me and other people who come to my place, or we conduct this organization, the Google DC, and a lot of the people try it out. The key thing is it's very lightweight. You don't feel like you're wearing something heavy. Maybe the first day you'll feel that, but after that it just becomes natural. It's like almost I have a glass on, my regular glass on. So it's just a little bit extra, that's about it actually. And then like as everybody covered on the areas like photos, videos, and those things. And then in addition to that, the Google Plus actually, that's another powerful area where whatever you're doing, and you are seeing it, and you could share it with the family. And interestingly, we are working on some healthcare domain area. So on a personal use, my daughter had a small fracture problem. And you could actually take a photo and live converse with a doctor remotely and get help for that. So it's pretty interesting. It's very, very powerful in that way.
So you're saying really nice things about glass. I want to hear the one thing you hate the most. The one thing, let me put it in a better way, the one thing you would improve about glass. Right, Shiva.
The touch is still very, maybe my particular one is a problem, but in general, I think that the next generation, which they are shipping right now, should improve the touch one. Touch is like really tough, actually.
So many things.
Just choose one.
I would say that the most frustrating thing right now is still the battery. That, when you're making heavy use of it, you do find that you have to either have a Mobi juice pack or something that you can plug your glass into after an hour or so, or you have to go plug it back into the wall and get back to it. So I think that is something that hopefully will improve in for future versions, but the battery is still a bit light.
For me, it's kind of a feature that I wish I had. I mean, if you start using a lot of apps or you get a lot of timeline cards that kind of show up in a series, the older ones kind of get pushed to the back, and I wish there's a way I could say, okay, Glass, search for ABC timeline, and then it gets pushed to the front. Because as you'll see, it's kind of, each card kind of decays over 7 days, so it kind of disappears, and then there's a really cool picture I took, but I want to see it up here. You can't really do that easily without doing this a bunch of times.
Love to see that.
That is a brilliant idea,
Thank
especially
you.
coming from a search company. That would be, and they do a lot of image processing on top of that. Anyway, I feel kind of guilty when anybody asks me that question, because it's one of those things like Louis C.K. is like, everything is great, no one's happy. I want this thing to look super sleek and super small like my regular. I just last week got my very first pair of eyeglasses, spectacles, and I want glass to look very thin and nondescript like that. But at the same time, I want battery life to be awesome. which technologically, at least as of now, not possible. But yeah, I'll sort of echo what everyone said. And a lot of my initial feature requests and wishes and things that I hate, like the sound, the battery, are all being solved day in and day out. These are prototype units. So I sweat a lot when I work out. When I run, I go running with glass because I'm testing stuff with glass. And not only does the battery, if I'm lucky for the battery to go out first, that's one thing, but normally the sweat would fog up the lenses in the camera and it would be pretty crazy. So yeah.
Good point. And regarding the sound, by the way, was one of my biggest complaints. For me, it was impossible to have a phone call or to actually listen to audio or video on glass. And I don't know if you saw, I've been lucky enough to get the new prototype yesterday, so I don't know if you can guys see that I have an earpiece now on the right side. I guess everybody can see. Probably you already have seen the pictures already. But basically now you have this little cable that connects to the USB, which is the same connector that you use to charge glass. Basically now you can hear what glass is saying when you are in a noisy environment. Before it was basically impossible. If you were at the office or at home and very quiet, it would work great, but not really like on a daily basis. And now it works. I don't know if it looks weird. Maybe it's not the right solution. I don't know, but it definitely helps me using it more. Anyway, so I want to get a little bit more into actual projects and the things you are developing. So I think that what I would like to know now is what's the most exciting project you've done with glass, or your most recent one if you've done Vue? What would be that project that is keeping you really excited about glass today and that you are involved in? And maybe we can start with Noble now.
Sure. My most exciting project, coincidentally, is not the project that I'm working on now. Back in April, I got my hands on a pair of, my personal pair of glass, and first thing I did was to sort of have it tap into my personal area network at home, and built something I called Operation Houdini, which basically allowed me to sort of look at my lamp, for example, and speak the words "turn on," which actually just called the service and sort of tapped into existing software that I had to turn on the glass, to turn on the lamp. That was super awesome, but sort of pointless because of the setup that it takes to get that done. Latest project I'm working on now, again, is fitness, specifically fitness applications on Google Glass, and that's pretty exciting.
So I have a million, I guess, little projects that I'm working on. On the enterprise side, I see a lot of applications. We have a construction client, and they're giving us ideas. Take this off, put it on a hard hat, and you can do punch list. What the challenge is that we're seeing is how to kind of design for glass and kind of any list, whether you're a tech in the lab and you just want to record your experiments for the day. How to organize that data so it's hands-free, because you think about in the healthcare setting, you don't want to have to touch glass because you might have to kind of re-sterilize and things like that. So there's a million applications. Some of them are boring, like timesheets. What if I could just say, okay, glass, 8 hours, marketing. For those who work in kind of consulting, timesheets take up a lot of your time, but there's so many applications, IT support, what ticket do I have next? What should I install? Okay, I have to install Java, App Engine, etc. People are writing that down on little stickies right now. So anything that can make your job easier, I think that's going to be huge. But switching back to the personal side, I'm playing with things like with location. So apps that says, well, Dave, you just went to McDonald's 5 times this week, so you might want to go to this other place that sells salad, and here's a healthier option. So it's interesting how the location works. It kind of pings, you can kind of get location every 10 minutes. And another personal app I'm working on is something to kind of motivate me. Be like a little card that comes in every hour or so, a picture of my kids, give me a message and things like that they can send me. So many, many possibilities.
Well, what I'm working on is this idea of you come to an event like this, and I know some of you, and we've met previously or something, and you may have checked in on Foursquare or Facebook or somewhere we may be connected through LinkedIn. The ability to search across all those different data sets and get the check-in information, and then get a list of basically flashcards of the names and faces of the people from their profile pictures that they've shared publicly. Obviously, if you haven't checked in or shared it publicly, then you have it. But then to be able to get that and just quickly kind of page through that to figure out, who's around me that I know, and hopefully then kind of quickly try to remember faces and names, because I'm horrible at that. I'm like, oh, I think we met before, what's your name again? And you seem to have looked at my badge, but your badge just looked around. And so I really think this will change conferences forever, because we'll finally go. The other thing that I've been able to create is if we have real-time location information on you, you can bring up a little compass, and it points to where the person is. So if you know that Jerry is here somewhere, and you want to go meet them after the event, you can bring up a little little arrow directional thing that will show you you get pointed at them, and oh, they're right over there, and walk toward them. So that's what I'm working on.
So in September, in India, I was working with a hospital called the Lifeline Hospital. The doctor is a very famous and popular doctor in Chennai. So we did the surgery, sorry, I didn't do the surgery, I'm not a doctor. So the doctor did the surgery, and he was wearing the glass in one of the buildings. So it's a multi-building hospital, actually. So one of the buildings, he was sitting there and he was doing the surgery. And then in another building, we had junior surgeons, actually, 3 or 4 surgeons from the college. And also we had media people and other experts. While the doctor was doing surgery, he was wearing the glass. Of course, he didn't touch the glass. Then he was able to explain what he was doing, and with the consent of the patient. Of course, we went through all the legal process. And it was really amazing because you could interact with the doctor. And we also had a third location, and we were able to interact with them. So one of the interesting value of the Google Glass is it's just much more than just a video camera and a mic, because it has a Google Hangout and you can interact. So the way we interacted was pretty fascinating. One is through the mic, actually. We were able to speak to him from my laptop. And additionally, the other people were able to Google Chat, and that also speaks into doctors. So he's able to hear it through the Google Glass. And it's a quiet room, so he was able to hear it well. And then he was explaining and what was surgery. So this is just a start on the healthcare, actually. And there is so much other healthcare opportunities. So we are working on healthcare and hospitality verticals, actually, to improve day-to-day experience, actually, and especially, let's say, if you are a patient or if you injured yourself, you are in a remote place. If you happen to have a Google Glass, then the doctor can immediately look at what you are looking at and then help you out. So that kind of facilities we are providing.
I really like what you mentioned about using video on Glass. I think it's very unique when you do a hangout, when you do a video conference with Glass. The person you're talking to, instead of seeing your face, that would be the normal situation in any hangout, right? They see what you see, and I think that enables a whole new range of applications. I don't know if you guys saw Google announced recently help outs. I can't wait to see those help outs integrated with Glass so that I can get real-time support through my Glass because I can show someone what I'm doing. I think that's a great potential for Glass in there. I really encourage you to check out the apps that these guys are building. I've been trying most of them, and they are really good. I've seen the one that John is building, and it's just like magic, and it's like extremely useful. It's one of those things that you really understand why you can have like relevant information right up your eye. It's interesting. So I guess that you have been developing with Glass for a while now. And I don't know if you know, but there are like 2 ways of developing for Google Glass. One is called the Mirror API. That's the official way. And funny enough, it's not Android. Despite being an Android device, this has Android 4.4 inside. The Mirror API is like a web toolkit If you're a web developer, it's easier for you to get to the developer class using that Mirror API. But you can also use Android. There isn't anything official yet that we'll call it the GDK, the Glass Development Kit. Hasn't been released yet, but it's coming. It's something that we'll see some announcement real soon. But so right now, if you want to develop for Glass, either you use the official web API, the Mirror API, or you need to be a bit more brave and use the Android SDK without any official reference from Google on that. So I would like to hear from you guys about the Mirror API, the official way of developing for Glass today. Your experience so far, what's you use it, you think it's not good enough for you, what's the feature that you see it's missing, or what's the feature that you really love with for the Mirror API? And I don't know who started last first, so maybe Shiva?
Sure. So we, as I said, like we are building a platform called First, which is a combination of both native Android or any of the native mobile. In the Glass, when it's native and connects with the Mirror API data actually. So we can collect data in the Glass through the native and then provide that back in a feedback through the Mirror API. That's what we are doing it right now. And there are a few challenges actually, but again, one of the core challenge, again, it's pretty interesting to see, when you say Google Glass, it's almost like a limitless, But in reality, when you look at the Mirror API, the screen is small, and the content, the Google advises the content should be very clean, and you don't, of course, nobody can drive and wear the glass right now because there seems to be a legal issue there. But if you want to look at the glass and instantly do some work, it has to be clear and concise and small. In that case, you are kind of restrictive. So that's one thing I saw. Makes sense?
Yeah. So first, you have to understand the screen factor that you're dealing with when you're building your application right now. And the way I actually approached the design of our app was I got small Post-it notes and drew our wireframes on small Post-it notes, and then I stuck them on my finger and kind of held them out here to get a sense of whether it was the right size in terms of the information density of the screen. So you have to really think about that. Now you're going to get the timeline, the way it works is you get to the Mirror API, you have a thing called a timeline. And it's basically sending you these information cards that will come into you based on timeline update events. Now, it's important to understand that Glass controls the synchronization of the timeline with this cloud-based timeline that's out there. So as a developer, you might have a user do an action that requests a card. That card might not show up on their Glass immediately. It might take, it's gotten a lot better. It was taking up 20 minutes. Now they say it should be there in under 2 minutes. But so you do have to rely on that. Also, the user's network connectivity may drop or be off, so you have to kind of rely on the fact that it's sort of this asynchronous process. Now, when you actually get one of these cards, a timeline item through the Mirror API, you embed actions on that. And those actions can now, with the most recent updates, actually be the same kind of URL actions that you would use to launch either to a mobile web-based site that would be able to use the web browser that's embedded. Now, it's Android 404, so it's not a true Chrome-based web experience yet, but it's got a few things. You can get access to the motion sensor in the device. You cannot get access to GPS. The other thing that you can do now is if you have what they call side load, which is where you design an Android app and load it onto the Glass, like any other Android app, you can register that URL as a what's called an action, which then will launch your app. So if you have a more interactive type app, that's how you get your users to it. And the last thing about the timeline is that you have these kind of callback actions that happen. So a user gets one of your cards or timeline items, and then they then tap on the card, and they can then take further action on it. That are presented in kind of individual one-page, big screen kind of would you like to send this somewhere? Would you like to reply to it? When you do those actions, that also is asynchronous. So it may be that you press the action button. It may take Glass to queue up for network events and power events. It may queue that up, so there is this latency that you have to deal with in Mirror. So it's a little bit like kind of you have to think about it kind of like a different thing than just pure web when we're sending these cards.
Right, so, and then that's, having the Mirror API, and you kind of have three things. You have the Mirror API, which is on Google servers, you have Glass, or your user's Glass, and then you have your web services. So you're really communicating not directly with your Glass users, but with the Mirror API. So it's something important to think about, especially in terms of what your clients want or allow you to do in terms of healthcare and all those kind of regulations. We typically build on Google App Engine. We actually run JavaScript on the JVM version of App Engine and kind of took, modified some of the Mirror API calls and made them into JavaScript. So that's how we typically build stuff, and it's pretty straightforward. I think it's basic functionality and it's a RESTful architecture, so it's pretty easy to get the APIs. The hardest thing I found is, unlike these guys who are a lot smarter, when I was trying to design, I just put a bunch of stuff, a bunch of information on the glass, and then I put it up and saw that it looked terrible. You do have a limited space. Apparently the color white is really, really blinding. So that's why they have a black background on a lot of the stuff on the cards. But those kind of things you kind of get to experiment with quickly. They have a playground where you can kind of use their predefined templates in CSS, write on a browser, push it directly to your card. And that cycle is really quick. So I would recommend doing things like these guys were talking about and kind of getting a feel for what data you want to have on there because you really have a limited space.
That's a very good point. As with any thing that you plan on building, you have to definitely give a lot of thought as to what problem you're trying to solve and what the right tool for the job is. The Mirror API is very simple to use. As Antonio mentioned, it's RESTful, it's web-based, so pretty much any language that is modern enough to make simple get, post, patch calls. You're able to interact with Google's Mirror service, and that in turn sends that data to the user's Glass. But it does have its limitations. Super quick with my story, back in June, early